Welcome back to the BookEnds YouTube channel. Today we are talking about what the hell is our job. That's pretty much so we've got 10 things. We've broken our job into 10 of what we would say are the most important things that we as literary agents do for our clients.
And we think one of the reasons to have this conversation is that obviously a lot of authors are told you need a literary agent to get published, and know that part of our job is to make that book deal happen and handle the contract. But I think beyond that, there's sort of this mysterious, well, now what do I do with this agent person that I have? And that's what we want to talk about is not just what is our job, but how to make the best use of your literary agent by knowing the expectations of what we're doing. And eventually we'll do a video on what we don't do.
Yeah, and also the why too, right? Like querying is grueling, it sucks, it's awful.
Yeah.
Sorry to all of you. But knowing why you need to do that process, like what you get at the end of it, I think could be helpful and make it bearable, maybe,
Yeah.
hopefully, sort of. So 10 things. We're gonna go in no particular order. Number one, the most obvious, I think that everybody likely knows, is career management.
Yeah.
It is our job as agents to help you start and then continue to manage and grow and direct your career as an author or an illustrator.
Yeah. But what does that mean? Like a lot of people hear that and they're like, okay, I don't know what that means. And I think that we'll get into a lot of that will be broken down in this, but I think essentially our goal is to not just sell a book. Our goal is to help you shape next steps in your career and have the necessary conversations. It's to negotiate a contract that allows you to continue to write the books you want to write and gives you the power you need, to do so with your agreement with the publisher. It is keeping updated, which we'll talk about on market trends and stuff, so we can work with you on your next ideas, and when you might want to pivot in your career, and also finding the right editors. There's a lot of different things that go into career management, but it's always sort of, I guess the best thing I can say is as an agent, it's always forward thinking to prepare you for what can be our next steps when you're finished with this contract.
Yeah, and being an author and illustrator is a small business. You're running a small business, and we are kind of like your business partner in that. We're trying to help you make that business as successful as possible. And we'll get, like you said, we'll get into all of the other ways that we do that, but on a broad scope, just kind of helping you steer the ship.
Yep. Yep.
Number two, preparing your manuscripts for submission. There's a lot there, and I think we have to be clear on what we mean by preparing. So, as agents, we are often working editorially with our clients, but there's a difference between helping you shape a manuscript that is ready for submission versus helping you write, edit, revise, and
Yeah.
get a manuscript to the place that it would need to be to even be submitted. Those two very different things.
Yeah, and I like the way you put it. What our job in preparing a manuscript for submission is prepping a manuscript that's already ready for submission.
Right.
And then we are prepping it and polishing it.
Yeah. And that doesn't mean we're not doing revisions. Sometimes we might have notes that will offer or lead to rather large scale changes in a manuscript, but there's still a difference between getting a first draft and getting a draft that if we had to slap a cover on and publish, you would be comfortable with. There's a big difference between those two
Yeah.
drafts.
I always say that the manuscript I want to see, you need to feel is ready to go into the bookstore and see readers. It
Yeah.
can't be something that you're sending me that's, needs a lot of work, but you're worn out and you want somebody to give you that advice on what needs to be done to fix it. That's not what I can do. And when prepping a manuscript for submission, at the revision process, what I'm looking at is what needs to be tweaked and polished to prevent potential rejections. Um, and that's it.
Yeah.
But if I read it and in totality, I'm like, there's not enough here. It needs to be completely reworked. Then to me, that's well beyond my purview.
Right. Well, to number three, that kind of is a buddy with helping you prepare your submission. It's knowing the market.
Yeah.
It is our job. no matter how you cut and slice it, it is our job to be regularly engaged with the market, to understand what's working, what's selling in any particular genre that we're representing, what's hitting the bestseller list, what's winning the awards, what trends are on the horizon. It is our job to be actively engaged with the literary market to know those things so that when you are sending us a manuscript you feel is ready or an idea that we're kind of working on, whatever it might be, we can tell you from experience confidently, this is where the market is heading and this is how this might slot into the market. It's
Yep.
an active living thing. I say that all the time, and it's our job to be keeping up with it.
Yeah, and to do that, we are reading books all the time. We're updated on the books that are selling, that are everybody's talking about is key. It's not just what's selling, what you see on bestseller list, but when editors come back to me and I hear repeatedly the title of one book, I go out and get that book. Honestly, I don't necessarily need to read it cover to cover, but I
No.
need to read enough of it so that I get why this is appealing to the market and why editors are looking for the next version of this.
Yeah, but also not just books either. TV shows that are hot, movies that are big, um, popular, any pop culture things that happen, right? Because there's like a lot of romances that might happen in pop culture that we can then use to pitch a book. Current events, especially if we're doing nonfiction, literary fiction, book club fiction, current events plays into it a lot. Just kind of having a generalized knowledge of what is in the zeitgeist in general, what is in the cultural zeitgeist. That is what helps us be very successful at our job.
And then, of course, talking to editors all the time so
Right.
that we know what they're saying. And the truth is, we can talk to different editors at different houses, and often we're hearing the same things, which is how we know what we need to be talking to authors
Yeah.
about.
And when we hear different things, that's how we know who to send what to. That's how we know this publisher specializes in this thing. This publisher leans little more literary. So having a full survey of the market is important.
And the truth is, actually, part of that market is the feedback we're getting on other clients' materials.
Yeah,
So if I'm hearing repeatedly something on another client's material and you come to me with that same thing, I'm going to use the knowledge I got from that to give you feedback on your book and say that's not something I'm going to be able to sell right now, for example.
exactly. But when that is all ready, when the manuscript is done, it's our job to submit the book to editors. It is never the author or the illustrator's job to submit the book to editors. They should always go through your agent.
And that includes creating a submission list.
Yeah,
So,
and writing a pitch often,
yeah.
or
So
polishing a pitch. Sometimes I do take the authors.
I love getting a pitch from the author, which is why I encourage anybody querying to really master that because what I want to do is utilize the author's voice in my pitch as much as possible. So using their pitch as the base for mine, it's rarely exactly the same.
Yeah, and knowing what they find is most important about their book, because that's what a pitch is.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, the author, once you have an agent, you should not be submitting directly to editors. And there's no need for you to be, certainly I'm open to the conversation, but typically you don't need to be doing the research because, you can sort of see certain things, but we have that marketing insight where we're talking to editors specifically and knowing what they want.
Yeah, and more to that, we're doing the follow-ups, we're doing the check-ins, we're keeping track of the timing. We're handling that whole process.
Yeah. Yep.
While you're always welcome to check in, it is our job to track that.
Yep.
Okay, so submission was successful. Congratulations. It is our job to handle an offer, negotiate any offers that come through, as well as a contract. And I separated those out because they're two different things. Handling an offer means receiving the offer, sharing it with you, alerting other editors, drumming up any interest that we can drum up, handling competitive situations. Negotiating the offer is if there's only one offer, or when we get down to the nitty-gritty and everyone sent their final offers, getting the best terms possible. And I do think those are two different steps.
Yeah, and one thing to note, our job is to do this with your go ahead. In other words, part of our job in negotiating that offer is to keep you fully apprised of every bit of it, every house that's coming in, the editors, if possible or necessary, creating a situation where you can have phone calls with the editors to really base your opinion on it. And then part of that is also, am I jumping ahead when I say also helping you come to a decision if you do have competitive offers, and being really honest with you based on our knowledge of the phone call, what the editors have said, our knowledge of the different houses, what one might provide that we know of, another might not. Those certain things are all part of that process to not just give you a bunch of numbers, but to give you information from our experience so that you have the ability to make a really well-rounded, knowledgeable decision.
That's it. I don't have anything else to add, which is rare, but it's true. Okay, next thing, leveraging your rights. So once we sell the book, we're not necessarily selling the book, right? We are granting a license to a publisher for a particular package of rights. There's your rights to print the book, but there's also subsidiary rights or other rights in a book, like audio, translation in different languages throughout the world, film, TV, all of those things. So it is our job to negotiate the package of rights that we're giving to the publisher. There's often a standard package that we give, like book club, large print, things like that. But audio, translation, film, and TV are usually the ones that are in play. Those are the ones that we are negotiating, trying to hold as much as possible. And when we do, it is our job to then leverage them in their various markets. So it's our job to try and attach a film agent and help that book get adapted into film or TV. Our job to send it around the world and help it get translated. Our job to send it to audio publishers and hopefully get it adapted into an audiobook.
Yep. And in that negotiation process and leveraging their rights, part of leveraging is, are we leveraging it with that publisher when we're negotiating it, or are we leveraging them later? Both can be done. Both can be done well, and both can be done to your advantage. It just depends on the situation. But it is our
Yeah,
job to consider all of the rights in every aspect of what we're doing.
right. Okay, the next thing, you have signed a deal, you're working with the publisher. It is an agent's job to guide you through that process as much as possible. We kind of share this a little bit with the editor. An editor will often give you as much information as possible about what comes next, what the steps are to get your book ready for publication. But we're there to answer your questions, to guide you through it, to make sure you know exactly what's coming and when it's coming.
Yeah. And the biggest thing is we are the answer person at this point. I
We're your
think
Google.
yeah. Yeah. You have developed a relationship with your agent. So, and you're still developing it with your editor. And while certainly you can ask your editor any questions, I find a lot of authors, when an editor says something and they're unsure about the terminology or what that means, or, want to know more, we're the person you can come to and just say, what does that mean?
Yeah. And directly tied to that, it's our job to know,
Yeah.
which
Yep.
seems obvious, but it's our job to understand the new terms, understand what percentages are standard, all of the things that go into a publication deal, the production process for a book, marketing, promotion. It's our job to have as strong a handle as we possibly can. And if we don't, which is fine, we don't know everything, nobody does, know where to get the answers.
Yep. Yep. Exactly.
Okay, number 9, advocating for what's best for your book. Very particular choice of wording, and Jessica will love to tell you why.
Yeah, so, this is a tricky one, I think, because we all sort of have a different idea of what this could mean. But our job is to work with you on your behalf, to make sure that the publisher is doing everything they can for your book. So, and it's not, one thing to note is sometimes what you think the publisher should do versus what the publisher thinks can be two different things. They could have a marketing strategy that doesn't match what your best friend got at a different house, but also maybe the truth is that their marketing strategy is a lot stronger, or your best friend had a different type of book, so that marketing strategy wouldn't work. Or sometimes in cases I've seen where authors want this very specific marketing strategy, but I know that kind of strategy has tapped out. That's not something that's working for books anymore, so publishers are shifting. So I think sometimes, what we're doing is advocating for your book, which doesn't always mean advocating for what you want.
Yeah, and
And go on.
it's just our job to manage those expectations too.
Yeah.
Like authors often, clients in general, we all do have grand expectations, right? Like we're achieving a dream. We want really exciting things to happen for our book. We hope to see what others get for our book. But like Jessica's saying, not every book gets the same exact plans and marketing and production, all of it. It's not all the same. So it's our job to help you understand and manage those expectations and not kind of let them run away from us. Because I often think that's where the most disappointment comes in. When we have really huge expectations and they're not met fully, that's where authors kind of get disappointed with the publication process.
And it's scary. I think it too. I had a situation with a client where they're getting a very different cover on their next book, and they're very nervous about it because they're unsure, but the publisher feels very confident that this shift in direction on their covers is going to make a big difference sales wise. My feeling, was I'm happy to talk to them about it. I actually think this could be a really interesting direction and give you a real boost in sales. I know it's very different from your vision of how you see the book, but they see it a little bit differently. And so it was a real conversation between me and the author first, but also giving my views so that when I went forward to the publisher and the author ended up sort of feeling like, let's give it a shot.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens with this and we'll give it a shot. And I think the tricky thing is sometimes it's I we have to have as agents the hard discussions of I can go and have this conversation with your publisher, but the publisher said no.
Yeah. Well,
So
actually,
at that point, I'm kind of stuck too because I can't, march into their offices and strong them into something that they don't agree to put their money behind.
yeah, if we can actually make that our bonus, like our number 11, having the hard conversations. Like
Yeah,
we're the one that is supposed to have the hard conversation with your editor if something's not working. We are often having hard conversations with you if a book is not working or communication style is not working, but it is our job to do that for you. And I always say, let me be the bad guy so you can be the good guy. And it
yeah,
is an
great.
agent's job to negotiate those tenser subjects for you.
Yeah.
And that's really all of the situations that we have talked about today. There are hard conversations laced throughout all of that.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I never thought about it this way until you just said that. But really, I think our number one job is negotiation.
Yeah.
All across from that first deal, all through conversations with publishers, it's negotiating on your behalf. But also, I think it's important for all of us to remember that every good negotiation is not about winning or losing. It's about finding a place where everybody can be sometimes not happy, but sometimes happy enough. And I think that's the tricky part because, the negotiations aren't just the contract, they're sometimes the covers, sometimes the editorial. There's a million different processes along the way where you might say, I need you to step in and help me with this. And that's what we're doing is sort of negotiating on your behalf. Um, but also for some of you, sometimes there isn't. Sometimes everything is just going wonderfully and you're happy and you don't need an agent to step in all the time, but it's nice to know somebody's there when you need them.
All right. Yeah. So that's our list. That's what we consider to be the most important aspects of our job. So we hope it was helpful, especially if you're in the querying process or you're working with an agent now to have a better understanding of what it is that we do, why you might want to work with an agent. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you back here next week.
Bye.